networks poured hundreds of millions of dollars into resurrecting beloved TV franchises from the past, and almost every single one of them crashed and burned. Today, we're counting down 11 TV reboots from before the streaming era that absolutely nobody asked for. Shows that stripped away everything fans loved about the originals and replaced it with, well, nothing good. These are cautionary tales of corporate desperation, creative bankruptcy, and the bizarre belief that slapping a familiar name on something automatically makes it worth watching. If you're into TV history, nostalgia, and watching networks learn absolutely nothing from their own mistakes, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is wilder than you remember. Let's get into it. The era of reboot fever. Before we start the countdown, you need to understand why this kept happening. NBC was in dead last among the big four networks for most of this period, so in 2007, they hired a guy named Ben Silverman as entertainment co-chairman. His mission? Revive old franchises. Silverman's logic was generational nostalgia. He figured the 30-somethings who grew up in the 80s were now the key demographic, and they'd tune in for updated versions of their childhood favorites. His co-chairman Mark Graboff was even more blunt about the whole strategy. He basically said people needed to escape, and the plan was to find shows where audiences could tune in and mentally tune out. On paper, the economics made sense. Reboots came with built-in brand recognition, lower marketing costs, the appearance of being a safe bet in a TV landscape that was fragmenting fast. One problem, though, almost none of them actually worked. NBC alone attempted reboots of Knight Rider, Bionic Woman, The Munsters, Ironside, and several others between 2007 and 2013. When the tech site Gizmodo reported the Knight Rider pickup, they dubbed NBC, and I love this, the "No, we didn't learn anything from Bionic Woman. Thanks. Why did you ask?" channel. The network's reboot success rate hovered around 10 to 15%. That's well below the already dismal 35% renewal rate for original programming. But NBC wasn't alone in this. ABC, CBS, the CW, cable networks, they all caught reboot fever during this era. So let's count down the 11 worst offenders. Number 11, The Fugitive.
Well, I'm his brother, and I need his medical records for this Medicaid thing.
We begin with a show so forgotten, you probably didn't even know it existed. CBS rebooted The Fugitive in October of 2000, with Tim Daly starring as Dr. Richard Kimball. The original 1963 series had run for 4 seasons and spawned that massive 1993 Harrison Ford film. CBS figured the brand was bulletproof. They spent a reported $7 million on the pilot alone. That was one of the most expensive TV pilots of its era. And here's the thing, Tim Daly actually earned a SAG Award nomination for his performance. So, quality wasn't necessarily the problem. The problem was that CBS buried the show in the Friday night death slot. After one full 22-episode season, it got canceled, left viewers with an unresolved cliffhanger. And today, The Fugitive 2000 is virtually impossible to watch. It's not available on any streaming service. A $7 million pilot, completely lost to time. Number 10, Kojak.
Yeah, I got popped 2 times with a 38.
You remember Telly Savalas, right? Bald head, lollipop. Who loves you, baby? The original Kojak ran on CBS from 1973 to 1978 and basically defined cool cop swagger. USA Network tried to bring it back in 2005 with Ving Rhames in the title role. Rhames kept the bald head and the lollipops, but he went for a more brutal, more insidious tone that lost all the suave charm that made Savalas so iconic. Problem was, this was an era already saturated with The Shield, The Sopranos, and CSI. A generic dark cop show with a nostalgic name just couldn't find a foothold. Critics said it offered nothing new to an overcrowded genre. The show pulled a 33% on Rotten Tomatoes and lasted just 9 episodes. Number 9. Coupling.
Wish me luck. Okay, you're really gonna do it. Oh yeah, this time.
Here's a reboot so bad that the network president himself eventually just admitted the truth about it. Coupling was this brilliant British sitcom created by Stephen Moffat that ran on BBC Two. NBC saw it as their potential successor to Friends, the coveted Thursday comedy block. So they bought the rights, hired an American cast, and basically recreated the scripts word for word. Disaster. The premiere aired September 25th, 2003. By October 31st, just 5 weeks later, canceled. Only 4 episodes ever aired out of 13 ordered. 6 completed episodes went entirely unaired. The final 3 were never even filmed. And here's the kicker. BBC America actually ran ads telling American viewers to tune in after the NBC version to watch the superior British original. That's savage. Years later, then NBC President Jeff Zucker delivered the definitive verdict on why Coupling failed. His exact words, "It just sucked." Number 8. V.
She wants her mother. She has me.
This one hurts because it actually had potential, until ABC actively sabotaged their own show. The original V miniseries aired on NBC back in 1983 and became a sci-fi classic. Alien invasion as a metaphor for fascism. ABC's 2009 Reboot starred Elizabeth Mitchell and Morena Baccarin, who was widely praised as the alien leader Anna. Opening night, over 14 million viewers. That's a massive number. This should have been a hit. Then, ABC made a baffling decision. They split season 1 into 2 parts, with a multi-month hiatus after just 4 episodes. The audience completely evaporated during the break. Never came back. Combined with escalating visual effects costs, the show became financially unsustainable. Kenneth Johnson, the original's creator, had distanced himself from the project. He said he was concerned they would, his words, botch it up. The show got canceled in May 2011 after 22 episodes across 2 seasons, ended on an unresolved cliffhanger. Sometimes the network really is the villain. Number 7. Melrose Place.
We were all wondering where you disappeared to.
Is that why you broke into these offices in the middle of the night?
The original Melrose Place was a genuine cultural phenomenon. Fox, 1992 to 1999. 7 seasons, 226 episodes, peak viewership around 16 million people. The CW figured they could recapture that magic in 2009. They could not. The reboot premiered to 2.3 million viewers, eventually dropped to 860,000. That's a catastrophic decline from the original's numbers. They brought back original cast members like Thomas Calabro. They even got Heather Locklear to reprise her iconic role as Amanda Woodward mid-season. Didn't matter. Not even Heather Locklear could save this thing. The CW's teenage-skewing audience was just a poor fit for an adult primetime soap. Ashley Simpson got cast in a supporting role and was reportedly criticized by both critics and fans. Canceled after 18 episodes. Original creator Darren Star wasn't involved. He later said he'd rather fail with a fresh idea than do a reboot. Smart man. Number 6. Mockingbird Lane. This is the strangest entry on our list, because honestly, it wasn't bad. It was just wrong. NBC hired Brian Fuller, the creative genius behind Pushing Daisies, later Hannibal, to reimagine the Munsters. The cast included Jerry O'Connell as Herman, Portia de Rossi as Lily, Eddie Izzard as Grandpa. The pilot reportedly cost $10 million. When it aired as a Halloween special in October 2012, it drew 5.47 million viewers and got a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes. Those aren't terrible numbers, but NBC declined to order a series. The network chief, Robert Greenblatt, gave an unusually candid explanation. He said it looked beautiful and original and creative, but the mix of weirdness, supernatural elements, and family story just didn't come together. That $10 million per episode price tag made it financially unsustainable for those viewership numbers. Brian Fuller went on to make Hannibal for NBC instead, a far better use of his sensibilities. Sometimes the best thing that can happen to a creative person is having their passion project killed so they can make something even better. Number 5. Ironside.
But you beat him down, the pry bar, till his brains fell out. You beat him while his...
NBC learned absolutely nothing from their previous failures, which brings us to Ironside. The original ran from 1967 to 1975. 199 episodes starring Raymond Burr as a wheelchair-using detective in San Francisco. NBC's 2013 version starred Blair Underwood and moved everything to New York. Premiere night pulled 6.8 million viewers. Episode 2 dropped to 5.2 million. NBC yanked it after just 4 episodes and replaced the time slot with Dateline reruns. 4 episodes. That's how long this reboot lasted. Critics were brutal. One called it the worst new drama of 2013. Variety connected it to the broader pattern. NBC had struck out with Knight Rider and Bionic Woman, but remained undaunted, trotting out another artifact that never got rolling. A disability casting controversy also emerged, with some arguing the role should have gone to an actor who actually uses a wheelchair. The whole production earned just 14% on Rotten Tomatoes. Number 4. Knight Rider.
About 25 years ago, there was a man named Wilton Knight who on his deathbed.
Picture this. NBC sees the massive success of the 2007 Transformers movie and thinks, hey, we own the rights to a show about a talking car. Let's bring it back. The result was Knight Rider 2008, which was less of a TV show and more of an extended Ford commercial. NBC made a deal with Ford Motor Company that essentially turned every episode into an advertisement. KITT was now a Ford Mustang Shelby G T500KR, but the network mandated the car transform into other Ford vehicles: the F150 pickup, the E150 van, the Ford Flex, the Crown Victoria. One critic described the 2-hour pilot movie as creeping by like a glacier with turbo-revving sound effects. Another reduced the entire show to 2 words: car porn. The backdoor pilot drew 12.8 million viewers. Series premiere pulled 7.35 million. By the end, they were down to around 5 million. December 2008, NBC reduced the episode order from 22 to 17. May 2009, officially canceled. Will Arnett was originally cast as the voice of KITT, but got replaced before broadcast by Val Kilmer. David Hasselhoff cameoed in the pilot. Justin Bruning starred as the lead. Remember that name, because he's about to show up again. And fun fact? Episode 14 featured a guest appearance by Meghan Markle, years before she became a duchess. Number 3. Charlie's Angels.
Yes, but you did run him down in 6-inch Louboutins, color me impressed.
How do I miss all the good stuff?
Here's a number that should never appear on a Rotten Tomatoes page: 0%. A BC's 2011 reboot of Charlie's Angels achieved the rare distinction of a 0% critic score, 32 reviews, average rating of 2.63 out of 10. That's not just bad. That's historically bad. The show premiered September 22nd, 2011 to 8.76 million viewers. 3 weeks later, October 14th, ABC canceled it. Only 4 episodes had aired. 7 total made it to air in the US, with the 8th showing only internationally. They'd originally ordered 13. The reviews were savage. One critic called it not just a lazy idea, but atrociously executed, pathetically acted, and cynically conceived. Another noted the reboot took a grim, ultra-serious approach that robbed the show of whatever campy, cheesy fun you might expect from the brand. Drew Barrymore was an executive producer. Leonard Goldberg, who produced the original series, was involved. The showrunners created Smallville. None of it mattered. ABC's president later offered an epitaph. They didn't breathe life into that franchise, but it was a strong attempt. That's corporate speak for "we failed completely, but I'm not admitting it directly." Number 2, Bionic Woman. This is the show that launched NBC's entire reboot disaster era. The original Bionic Woman starred Lindsay Wagner, ran from 1976 to 1978 as a spin-off of The $6 Million Man. NBC hired David Icke, fresh off Battlestar Galactica, to do a dark reimagining. The premiere drew nearly 14 million viewers. That was NBC's highest midweek premiere since The West Wing back in 1999. Massive number. Should have been a hit. By episode 8, viewership cratered to 5.9 million. That's a loss of more than 57% of the premiere audience. The show got canceled without NBC ever making an official announcement. They just dropped it from the fall 2008 schedule. Behind the scenes was chaos. The show burned through 4 to 5 creative leaders in under a year. Pilot director exited. Glenn Morgan from The X-Files joined, then left citing creative differences. Jason Katims from Friday Night Lights ran the writer's room briefly. New showrunner hired in late October. Then the 2007 Writers Guild strike shut everything down permanently. Lindsay Wagner wasn't involved and was openly critical. She essentially said it was technically well made, but they didn't understand the show. Too angry, too dark. Critics noticed that Katie Sackhoff, who played the antagonist, was far more interesting than the lead. Multiple reviewers suggested the producers either got the wrong Bionic Woman or needed to give the villain more screen time. David Icke later reflected on what went wrong. Said the process was frustrating and conditions never came together in a way that let them make the show well. They just didn't bring it all together like they did with Battlestar. This show's failure should have taught NBC a lesson. Instead, they immediately greenlit Knight Rider. Number 1. Wonder Woman. And now, we arrive at the most infamous failed reboot of this entire era. A pilot so bad that NBC refused to air it, yet so fascinating that it became legendary. David E. Kelley, creator of Ally McBeal, The Practice, Boston Legal, was hired to bring Wonder Woman back to television. Adrienne Palicki from Friday Night Lights got cast as Diana. Pilot ordered January 2011. Shot that spring. And in May, NBC passed entirely. The pilot never aired, but thanks to a leaked work print, we know exactly why. The show fundamentally mischaracterized Wonder Woman. Instead of a compassionate hero, she was written as a violent vigilante who tortured suspects and killed a security guard with a pipe. She broke arms for information instead of using the lasso of truth. At one point, she snarls at a cop who suggests criminals deserve lawyers. The script also had this bizarre triple identity concept. Wonder Woman the superhero. Diana Themyscira, a corporate CEO who merchandised the Wonder Woman brand and complained about her action figure's breast size. And Diana Prince, a lonely single woman who went home to her apartment, cuddled her cat, and watched The Notebook. The costume got mocked relentlessly when photos leaked. One critic said it looked less like a superhero outfit and more like a Project Runway challenge gone wrong. Kelley himself later admitted the superhero genre was way outside his wheelhouse. Not really what he does. He acknowledged they made mistakes. His only regret was never getting a chance to correct them. Now here's the wild part. Remember Justin Bruning from Knight Rider? He was cast as Steve Trevor in Wonder Woman. Same actor starred in 2 different failed NBC franchise reboots. But here's the even wilder part. Another actor in the pilot was this largely unknown performer named Pedro Pascal. He played Ed in Delicato. Pascal later said he was devastated the show wasn't picked up. He went on to become The Mandalorian, and Joel in The Last of Us. Adrienne Palicki later reflected that the show was about 2 years too soon. She believed if it had been made 4 years later, it would still be on. She might be right. The pilot arrived a year before The Avengers, and Arrow launched the modern superhero TV boom. Pedro Pascal ended up playing Maxwell Lord in Wonder Woman, 1984, making him one of the few actors to appear in 2 different Wonder Woman projects. The industry works in mysterious ways. The lessons nobody learned until streaming. So why did every single one of these reboots make the same mistakes? First, nearly every show applied a darker and grittier tone to source material whose appeal was warmth, camp, or fun. Bionic Woman went Battlestar dark. Knight Rider added terrorists. Charlie's Angels stripped away the frothy charm. Wonder Woman turned a compassionate hero into a violent vigilante. Second, the original creators were almost never involved. Darren Star declined both 9, 0210, and Melrose Place. Kenneth Johnson distanced himself from V. David E. Kelly admitted he was wrong for the superhero genre. Third, no reboot solved what I call the irreplaceable star problem. Knight Rider without Hasselhoff's campy charisma. Kojak without Savalas's swagger. You can't just slap a familiar name on something and expect magic to happen. The streaming era eventually figured this out. The more successful reboots that came later, shows like Fuller House, Gilmore Girls, A Year in the Life, Cobra Kai, learned specific lessons from this carnage. Reunite original casts instead of recasting. Honor the original tone instead of darkening everything. Let creators who actually understand the property run the show. The one exception that proved reboots could work during this pre-streaming era, Battlestar Galactica. It succeeded precisely because Ronald D. Moore had a genuine artistic vision beyond nostalgia. But for every Battlestar, there were 5 Knight Riders. And at NBC specifically, there were approximately 6. So there you have it. 11 TV reboots from before streaming that nobody asked for, ranging from the completely forgotten to the genuinely infamous. Networks spent hundreds of millions of dollars, alienated countless fans, and proved definitively that brand recognition is not a substitute for creative vision. If you enjoyed this deep dive into TV history, hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already. And let me know in the comments which of these reboots you actually remember watching. I'm betting at least a few of you sat through that Knight Rider pilot, wondering why Kit kept turning into a Ford pickup truck. Until next time.